Germany plus World War I equals German Empire and economy collapses. Germany loses land to France. Turkey plus World War I. Ottoman Empire collapses. Turkey loses a fourth of its population, loses all Middle Eastern land. Austria-Hungary plus World War I. Austria-Hungary collapses. All the Balkan lands are lost. Finally, there is Bulgaria. Bulgaria plus World War I. Bulgaria is just Bulgaria. Nothing happened. It's just that simple. Then they came back for the sequel, also joined the losing side, did something even better. They not only didn't lose any land, they gained some. This piece was ceded by Romania. Bulgaria might be the only country in the world that could take 2 huge L's and still come out on top. Bulgaria already was down so bad that the Allies didn't bother to punish them. Well, that's also one way to look at it. This was submitted to my own subreddit, rdrewdernell. Thank you very much. There's links down below. If you forgot, I will remind you that Österreich is a colonial empire, says Austria-Hungary. Prove it. What colonies do you even have? Well, let's start with one of my favorites, the Austrian Netherlands. Help. And then also I have this little port thing too. Sorry, Austria, but in order to be a colonial empire, you need to have at least one large overseas territory. Without them, you're not a real colonial empire. Nani? You're not a real empire? You're not a real empire. You're not a real empire. You're not a real empire. Why are they so arrogant? If you want, I can give you my colonies in Africa, responds Germany, this other German country trying their best to be here for their brother. So this is basically highlighting if we should classify the Austro-Hungarian Empire as a colonial empire. Because I don't really even know. I think it's still up for debate. Now, Austria-Hungary pre-World War I or during World War I don't think we could say that's a colonial empire, but in this strip, we're specifically mentioning Austria-Netherlands, so I'm assuming we're talking about the Habsburg Empire. And here was that house at their greatest extent. Note the quote-unquote Austrian Netherlands here, but the Habsburgs were also in Naples and Spain, and they did control parts of coastal Africa as well. Here they are. And then the port of Tianjin, which we also saw, was partly controlled by Austria-Hungary. Now, mind you, a lot of other countries also shared that area, and they eventually gave them back to China. Well, except for Japan. That would take World War II for China to get all this stuff back from Japan. That was the only stuff they really had outside of Europe and those small parts in Africa. This was in Asia, so nothing in the US or the Western Hemisphere. But there are notable pockets throughout the continent of Asia at different times as well. So it gets complicated. I mean, by definition, they are a colonial empire, but it's complicated. Aw, little teensy, eensy, beansy, weak Greece thinks it can defeat the great Italia. Oh, wait a second. Germany, help! Meanwhile, Greece is in rage mode, and this is a basic summary of what happened in WW2. Benito Mussolini thought he could just reform a neo-Roman empire, but unfortunately for him, it wasn't going to be that easy. He quite literally did have to call Germany up here to come down and help him. Very nice colorization. This was so realistic. I is of conquer, exclaims Mongolia. Ha ha, woo! But this, they say, is just not worthing it as they turn back around. I mean, I would too. These guys are looking intimidating. This is referring to how the Mongolian Empire didn't get further than a little bit into modern-day Poland. Yes, that's right. The Great Mongolian Horde, the biggest empire we've ever seen continuously, decided to finally stop and collapse after Poland. At least you can kind of look at it that way. The Polish were so intimidating, the great Genghis Khan was like, man, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Even their horses were absolutely petrified. Spain, my friend, how goes life in the Canaries? Is okay, as long as you avoid the wildlife, they reply. Pizza bunga bunga. Wildlife, you say? See, as Spain sips their tea. Wild, ruthless, untamable beasts of nature. Wait. Oh, those untamable beasts of nature, I see. I've been hearing this more and more. The kryptonite of all of Spain. It happens to be just British tourists. It's gotten so bad, drunken Brits could be banned from Spain's islands completely. Tourists who break strict rules could be blacklisted from notorious party hotspots. I was just in London last month. I feel like I was shamed as being the only country that has tourists that go wild. Would you look at that, how the tables have turned. I is going to have conquered all of Gallia with my friends here, says a very barbaric Switzerland. Haha, they're so stupid. I is of willing to betraying them and owning all of Gallia myself. Gallia or Gallia? Austria? Barbar. Compare that to the Switzerland of now. Yo, dude, when are you gonna stop being neutral, says NATO. Neutral. I love this post because it highlights just one of the many times throughout Switzerland's history where they were not neutral. I know the memes are funny, and they have been resoundingly neutral as of the last, like, 180 years. But before that, they definitely enjoyed doing a little bit of trolling. Well, trolling through war. I think they still like to do a little bit of trolling. There's actually a huge Wikipedia list of all the times the Swiss did find themselves in a war. But like I've always said, there's no one the Swiss like to fight more than the Swiss. I mean, that shouldn't be surprising since they are the Frankenstein of nations that kind of are just united around those mountains. They're probably going to continue to be extremely neutral as well, unless they, for some reason, start fighting themselves again. It's time we settle this dispute once and for all. I've buried the deed to all of China in this here 20 feet deep sand pit. Whoever finds it first gets to own all of China. Cue anime action noises. There ain't nothing buried in that sand pit. Oh, I guess this is actually all part of the plan. Just to keep them distracted, searching for nothing. Aw, man, rip Hong Kong. I mean, you wouldn't believe the US would make it that easy, would you? At least this will keep them distracted for a good couple decades, so we can kind of figure this out, I guess. I wonder if this is some sort of political metaphor. Have we already done this? It's like 4 levels deep or something. Year 600 or something. Do you speak Proto-Slavic? Was? He is mute or unable to speak our language. Cut to a map back in 600 AD. We have that entire region of those who are mute. That's the definition here. And here they are as modern Germany here in 2023. Still with this same name, those who are mute. Is that how they got their name from these Slavic languages? So yes, this word, or basically the Polish word for Germans and Germany, is traced back to this Proto-Slavic word, which does in fact mean mute. But this comic perfectly describes probably what happened. It's not that the people here were actually mute. It was just the Proto-Slavs couldn't really understand them. And ever since then, there are still so many places that refer to Germany as these names. This just reminds me how funny it is that any language can call any country whatever we want. Like, we don't need their approval at all. I mean, this is kind of the case with Japan. And we just recently saw it with Turkey. They don't want to be spelled as the same way Turkey is. You could technically make your language call a whole nother place just the bad guys, and they have to go with it. I always feel so small and oppressed, but I is enough of this. Assert me mismo, telling who is of boss. Plus ultra, I conquer more and more. The entire mundo. Bonjour, says France behind Spain. And that is the story about how my independence was brutally robbed. So sad, says Portugal, I cry for you. Meanwhile, they're looking at a picture of a formerly French-occupied Spain during the Napoleonic times. I mean, that was really the final blow to this empire. Love the accuracy of this map, though. On this side of the globe, it really does look like Spain controlled the world. So this is the rise and fall of the Spanish Empire. We have Muslims entering Iberia, I'm guessing. Then they had enough and started the Reconquista, going all the way down, beginning to slowly unify the Iberian Peninsula into Spain, going across the strait, conquering the natives in America, and then it all ended after this point here because all of Spain's colonies would then gain their independence. I don't think a lot of the world's gonna really feel too bad for Spain, though. Now I gotta hear Portugal's story. They've got a fun one, too. And big thanks to my patrons this month. Drew, I'm your dad, back with the milk. Look outside. KirinoIsBestGirl. The clone's training is complete and is
Fredrik
Tibblin,
sleep without
Australia is real. I am not a paid
The
actor.
GreatRalphy.
Traven's annoying friend. Sebby, if you hear this, I love you.
GoodOldRyah.
The Mexican 76510.
aPhatNarwhal.
RyeThePie.
Carmel
LuxembourgLover. And why am I doing this?